how are they doing this? That's my question. How are they doing this for so cheap? I thought the same a few months ago when San Martin released the SN0129, a $300 GMT with mega specs and an insane desert-like dial that sent value for money blasting through the stratosphere. It was one of those watches that a big brand would have demanded a kidney sale price tag for, and as a reviewer, I couldn't not recommend it, even if it didn't fit me perfectly. Since then, San Martin has released several watches, none of which quite hit the spot. Many of them were the ever-present clones of big brand watches or just reworks of existing models, including a bezel-free version of the Desert Dial watch, but nothing fresh that piques my curiosity. I mean, some of them were downright ugly. Maybe San Martin had peaked. Maybe this previous success was just a flash in the pan. Well, you've seen the title, you can probably guess the answer. Out of the blue, they emailed me saying they'd already posted me one of their new models to take a look at because, and I quote, "The photos taken may not capture the true effect of the dial, which is actually very beautiful. In fact, the new watch was supposedly beautiful enough to fascinate and intoxicate people." Now, I'm gonna be honest, I actually didn't read that far. I don't really like people sending me review samples unsolicitedly as it really messes with my schedule. I thought the watch looked a little gimmicky too and pointless, and I couldn't be bothered reading all the spiel. But my wife did read the spiel, and she said the dial manufacturing process sounded surprisingly interesting. Either way, I expected to just take a quick look at it and then ask for a return label, as I wouldn't have time to fit it in. Then this happened. Let's see if they were right. Let's see if it's actually better in person than the stock images. Plastic off. Wow. It's San Martin, man. Some of the dials this company comes up with are insane. I mean, that looks awesome in person. Yeah, they weren't lying. Yet again, San Martin has worked some witchcraft and created another seemingly magical dial for another astonishing price tag. In fact, they've made several other interesting changes, which I'll also delve into in this video. Oh, and they've also made one unfortunate mistake, which you're staring at right now. Go on, take a good look. We'll come back to that one later on. Talking about backs, I nearly snapped mine when pulling this stunt. Yeah, my last chair had some decent adjustability on the arms, but it was also poorly built with terrible tolerances and completely inadequate locking mechanisms. The lumbar support was completely fixed and one size fits all, which doesn't exactly work with human beings. You have to add a pillow to customize it, and even then, if you decided to lean backwards, well, I'll see you at the chiropractor. My new C7 Air office chair from my sponsor FlexiSpot is a little bigger but avoids all these issues. It's much better constructed with a backrest and seat that securely locks in place, and adaptive lumbar support that you can adjust to suit your back or desired posture. The wider and deeper mesh seat also conforms to my massive butt and can be independently adjusted without collapsing. My previous chair also lacked a headrest. The C7 on the other hand has a fully adjustable headrest, so I can actually rest my head and lean as far back as I want without hitting the deck. The armrests are fully adjustable in multiple directions, ideal for however long or bendy your tentacles are. This version of the C7 comes with not only a 30-day risk-free return window, but also a 5-year warranty with direct replacement for damaged parts. What's more, you can customize the chair to suit your preferences. The C7 can ship with either mesh or foam. I went with the mesh because the last thing I want is to be sweaty when the UK gets that 2 days of sunshine per year. Their Black Friday sale is coming soon, might be happening right now, and you can grab the best discount on FlexiSpot, including standing desks, chairs, and more by heading to the link in the video description. Use my code 24BFC7 to save an extra $50 on the C7 chair. So here it is in 4K, the SN0144-GX. I'll leave a link to it in the video description if you want to check it out. To clarify, they did send this in, hence the paid promotion flag, but they haven't paid me to say anything about it and they've got no control over this video. While the dial is the obvious focal point, I immediately noticed something else when unboxing: the slimness. Indeed, the 39mm case size and 46mm lug-to-lug are nothing out of the ordinary, but boy is it thin. Skeletor arguably has more meat on his bones than the SN0144, as it clocks in at a quartz-rivaling 10.2mm thick, which includes the bezel and a fractionally raised sapphire crystal. Heck, if San Martin ever makes a bezel-free watch, it'll be so thin you could chop your veg with it. Needless to say, it fits under just about every sleeve and wears perfectly flush to the arm, giving a very sleek look. I think these proportions are also very versatile, style, but more on that later on. The case surely draws inspiration from the Rolex Oyster models, given the comparable shape and flat side profile, albeit with an elevated focus on brushing rather than polishing. It's got a brushed bezel on flanks, with a few polished patches sandwiched in between. While akin to the Rolex, the straightness of the case isn't really to my taste. I tend to prefer more curvature and fluidity to the sides, such as that offered by Vair or Erebus, where it also feels like that element is an integral part of the design. As you can see though, the standard of case finishing is shockingly comparable despite the vast cost difference. This San Martin uses 316L steel, so it's not quite the same material as the 904L steel Rolex uses, but the final results are nonetheless in a similar ballpark, with a great deal of precision and attention to detail. San Martin may have been edged out in my recent AliExpress comparison video, but on average, I still think they're the kings of low-cost case finishing. With this one, they've even made strides in that department. The SN0144 is a bracelet that is, quite frankly, unbelievable for a watch at this price. It's nothing short of gorgeous, with a super clean case integration, extra fine brushing, and a clever use of polishing down the sides of the central links that helps it catch the eye. Just like the case, this gives the whole package a premium look and feel, which is only amplified by the clasp, which perfectly traces the lines of the bracelet and even houses a concealed glide lock style mechanism that permits a wide range of adjustments on the fly. Of course, it also retains the screw link system for easy link removal. Previous San Martin bracelets were already top tier, though they tended to look a little generic and had the occasional QC issue. This one though is next level. Now I don't know every single watch bracelet out there, so I'd love to know if you think San Martin might have copied this style from another brand. It wouldn't surprise me, but even if that's the case, the execution here is undeniable. It's the best bracelet I've seen on a watch under $1,000 for sure, in both form and function. I've seen a couple of people say that they think this is too sharp or something, but I'm definitely not feeling that myself. In terms of the rest of the watch, you still get a decent 100-meter advertised water resistance rating, which I believe, as the watch has not only a screw-down crown, but also one of the firmest case backs I've ever had to remove, to the extent where I scratched it when I first tried. I'd be astonished if it didn't achieve that 10-bar rating. That case back, which features Chinese symbols that apparently translate to San Martin, is also very flat, undoubtedly contributing to the overall thinness of the piece. You'll also notice the bracelet has nice solid end links and spring bars that are fairly easy to get at, but lack any quick-release notches. You're probably wondering what's under the hood. Now, unlike some of the other Chinese brands, San Martin, they don't tend to use Chinese seagull movements or anything like that. The last gen San Martin SN0129 had the highly regarded Seiko NH34 GMT movement, or in the case of the non-GMT variants, the NH35. That was a decent enough movement for sure, but here, they've gone one better. The SN0144 is packing a Miyota 9015 automatic. This ultra-thin movement, as Miyota calls it, is a go-to mechanical option for brands after two things: a slim movement to cut down the size of a watch, and a higher vibration frequency, aka beat rate. Higher beat rates give the second hand a smoother sweeping effect, which you'll notice when you compare this to the lower beat rate Seiko-powered SN0129. As a result, it can also provide a touch more accuracy on average. You'll see on screen the accuracy that this one achieved. Overall, this is about as good a movement as you can get at this price, and anecdotally, I've had far fewer performance issues with these movements than others like the Miyota 8000 series, with the only real gripe being that it's still got quite a noisy rotor. As is the norm with these Chinese brands, this one features a decent flat piece of sapphire crystal with a more than adequate anti-reflective coating that doesn't obscure your view of the JianZhan beneath. Indeed, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this absurd dial. Now, some elements here are not new. The hands and markers, for instance, appear to be the same as on some of the other San Martin watches, and are each quite versatile and attractive, so they work just as well here, though if you have both this and the SN0129 in your collection, such an overlap may reduce the individuality of each piece. I'd still take that over them being ugly though. Oh, and because those things are the same, the loom performance is also the same. At this price, it's definitely above average, but it's not the best I've seen. In contrast, the dial surface is something entirely new to me. Now, I've tried enamel dials before, but they're usually single tone with a glossy, smooth finish. According to San Martin's email, this is some kind of variant of that using a low temperature enamel finish, and they've achieved this three-dimensional effect despite the top layer actually being flat. An optical illusion to some degree, with a textured bottom layer, a central colored layer, and then the transparent upper layer. Now, I'm not a scientist, but whatever the technicalities, the final result provides you with the extreme texture of a matte dial combined with the shiny surface of an enamel dial. And while I wouldn't say I'm intoxicated from it, the final effect is nonetheless applaudable for the money. This sort of thing it just didn't exist at this price 5 years ago. The texture varies in prominence depending on how you move and the different lighting conditions, and it looks a lot like the porcelain they mention in the product name. The same can also be said for the other two colours, red and orange, albeit I bet the blue will be the most popular as it's the least in your face. Now there's something important to note with this one. To my knowledge, there seem to be two versions of this watch floating around, at least at the time of recording. The original versions launched with a much more obvious fume effect, or at least it looks that way, where the dials quickly recess to black before the hour markers. The one I have here seems to be one of the new versions where this central colour extends much closer to the edges, though I'd recommend having a thorough look at the product shots to see which version you're gonna get. I expect this new version to be the one you typically get from the San Martin official store moving forward, which is the store I've linked in the description. Here's where we get to the mistake, the error I mentioned earlier. That is the date window. Now colour-wise, I have no complaints. It's perfectly matched to the dial tone, and from what I can gather, it's the same story for the other two colour variants. What's frustrating is that my unit had a wheel that was clearly misaligned. The dial as a whole looks perfectly straight, but the date is butted up slightly to the right side of the window. It's a shame too, as while it's only a small mistake, it's still quite easy to notice given the central position of the window on this model, which does throw off the symmetry a tad. It does at least show that San Martin probably doesn't cherry pick units for reviewers, as the vast majority of user-generated reviews on AliExpress don't have this issue. It seems I just got unlucky for once. There are no other obvious errors, and everything looks very clean under macro, as you can see, and for the most part, this watch is absolutely bonkers. Right now, it's around £250 or $320 on AliExpress, and for that money, you'll struggle to find a more intricate dial or a higher quality watch. San Martin is calling this a GADA watch, a go anywhere, do anything watch. And I suppose with the sporty styling, it is fairly versatile, but I tend to prefer slightly more restrained designs for day-to-day usage. It's just what I end up reaching for whatever reason. And you know, despite all the San Martin watches I've reviewed, many of which have received a stellar review, I'm yet to find one that I can actually wear regularly. I may have small arm syndrome, but I'm still looking for one that fits well and makes it reliably into the rotation. And I may just have found it. Yeah, while making this video, I stumbled upon this, which they didn't tell me about. Two new size variants of this SN0144, a 42mm and a 36mm. Now I guess there's one for all the family. I think I'll probably buy one of these purely to see if it's the San Martin to break the curse. Now the blue, it's decent, but I'd say it's maybe a little bit predictable. Whereas the orange, that one's calling my name, I have to say. Now, I'll be interested to see how that one actually looks in person, because if you pull up a couple of the different listings side by side, it looks significantly different. If I do grab it, you'll see it on my unboxing channel in the loop, as I wouldn't want to just retread the same ground here and basically make the same video twice. While you're waiting, you should check out the video on screen now, which covers San Martin's previous attempt at one of these really textured dials, as well as a surprisingly good $40 alternative. It's from another Chinese brand, and again, the value is ridiculous. Oh, and don't forget our sponsor FlexiSpot's Black Friday sale, where you can get the deepest discount yet on chairs and desks, including the new C7 Max chair, which has even more features. Use my code 24BFC7 to save an extra $50 even on that chair. If you order at the times and dates on screen, you'll even get a chance to win a completely free order.